I'm endlessly fascinated and curious about the world around us, about business, about politics, about the arts, about culture, developments, social issues, and the people. Most importantly, about the people that are shaping our future. Every night, I get the opportunity to have conversations, to dive into conversations with thought leaders, with change makers, entrepreneurs, politicians, and everyday heroes who unpack the ideas and stories that I think matter to all of us. What's the future of our economy? What's the future of our country? How do we build stronger communities? What can we learn from music, theater, sports, politics, the arts? How does policy shape our real lives? What does leadership look like, real leadership in today's environment? If it's interesting and relevant and topical and we're talking about it, you'll hear about it here at 6 o'clock on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I want to have real conversations, in-depth conversations. These are ideas we're sharing. This is the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Thanks for joining me. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. What's happening with our housing market is something that I hear about at every coffee, conversation, dinner conversation. Everyone's wondering what's going on. And Ron Butler of Butler Mortgage, who's been a mortgage broker for just a few years now, a few decades maybe, posted something recently that was really quite scary and quite profound. And I thought we'd invite him on to hear what he's got to say. So Ron Butler, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for coming back again. What do you think is going to happen to housing in the Greater Toronto Area?
Well, we're experiencing some dramatic drops in prices that are a function of a steep and rapid increase in power sale foreclosure offerings. That's, typically in whatever neighborhood they occur, they severely undercut the price for the whole neighborhood.
Power of sale and foreclosure. So we've heard, lots of people talk about, increase of inventory. We've heard about assignment sales. But power of sale and foreclosure, that's a new topic I haven't heard about before.
Well, it's increasing at the rate of 20% a month in the last 4 months. So that's obviously a very meaningful statistic if something's going up that fast. To give you an idea, I think there was in 2005, there were 5 power sales in 1 month, the month of, I believe it's the month of August, in the whole of the GTA, and there were about 400 this month. So it's a big number.
5 in 2005, 400 last month.
Right.
And that 400, you're saying that's increasing by about 20%, so that's gone up from 300 and something?
Oh, it goes up constantly. I mean, we feel that September will kick in 20% higher, and then October again will be 20% higher. This is just it's an incredible growth in these forced sales.
Is this in condos, or is this in townhouses, or is this in single-family homes, or what?
Name it, everything. It's condos, it's townhouses, it's single-family homes. It's actually slightly higher in low-rise than high-rise, so it's slightly higher in towns, semis, single-family than it is in condos, but it's prevalent in all of them.
Is it more prevalent in the 905 versus the 416, or in specific cities in the 905?
That's a great question. It is far more prolific in the 905. And the epicenter today would appear to be Brampton, Ontario. Bunch of reasons for it, but I'll give you an idea. There were more power of sale houses being offered in Brampton than in all of the rest of the GTA combined.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I got to amend that. Wrong stat. So that's Brampton versus the entire city of Toronto. So Brampton is 5.5x smaller. So Toronto's 5.5 times bigger than Brampton. And yet Brampton had more power of sale homes than all of the city of Toronto.
Why?
So it's a function of a couple of things coming together, but it's principally the absolute collapse of crooked foreign student community colleges. That the government shut it down. You can't effectively get a student visa today from another country unless it's like at a very high level. You've got to be attending university on a high level program, medical, or perhaps law, or perhaps not law, but medical or architecture or engineering. You got to be at a very high level, very important skills that we need to bring to Canada. But the community college scenario has been wiped out. Those campuses are actually, some of them are going to be closing. If we take the example of Conestoga College, enrollment's down 92%. So all of those former students are leaving Canada. Some are trying to become refugees or have applied for refugee status, but no new ones are coming, absolutely none. So in Brampton, and I'd say about 50% of all foreign students were coming from the Punjab in India. They had a natural affinity to live in Brampton. A lot of different relatives there, community-based organizations there, and they lived in houses. Like people in Brampton bought houses, big houses, like 4,000 square foot homes, single family homes, 3,800 square foot homes, big ones. And they'd put out like 12, 14 futons, sleeping bags, and they'd charge $800 a month to these students to live in this house.
And they were sleeping on futons and sleeping bags? Seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, there were some beds. I saw pictures of some situations where there's beds all over the family room. There's like multiple beds crammed into each bedroom. There's beds in the basement, or there's futons, or there's sleeping bags. There was one whole room in the house. It was a big house. It's 4,000 square feet. I saw a picture of one whole room devoted to luggage. There was like 45 different pieces of luggage piled up from all different types, piled up in one room. It's because these people they're foreign students. They just come with luggage. And they need a place to store it. So the collapse of student housing has now led to the collapse of that whole enterprise. So, for instance, if you're renting out 14 spaces in a large home for $800 a month, that's a lot more than, that's a very substantial income. That's cruising onwards of 10 grand a month. So you could easily afford the mortgage payment. You could easily afford the property tax. But once those students leave and you're trying to rent it out to a just one family, or renting out the basement and the top level to two families, your revenue falls off a cliff and you can no longer afford the mortgage.
But interest payments have come down. Interest rates have come down. So can't people afford the mortgage payments more reasonably today than they might have in the past?
Well, they bought these in 2020. They got these mortgages, bought these houses in 2021, 2022. So the the value of the house is falling. Those mortgages were expensive in middle of 22 through 2023. They were very expensive because the student influx of huge numbers of students was a phenomenon of 22 and 23. There was in 23 1.24 million people came to Canada. It was an unbelievable increase in population. And many of those were students. We're told that just Ontario alone, 400,000 students came in 1 year. I believe it was 2023. So that's an incredible run up. And that's when they bought the houses. They saw the opportunity. So those were relatively expensive mortgages. And in some ways, the property values have come down. So it's this combination of the revenue's gone away, the $10,000 a month has gone away, and the mortgage is still there, the property tax is still there, and the house value has probably come off about 10 or 15%. So at that point, how you sell? Your property value is now very, very close to the mortgage amount. And that's not workable. I mean, there's no value left. So it makes more sense just to walk away from the whole proposition.
And so what happens then? Tell me about, the process of either a power of sale or a foreclosure. How does it actually happen? What goes on?
Great question. 99% of all these proceedings in Ontario for residential property as opposed to commercial are power of sale. It's a specific act in this province. Very simply, the mortgage holder goes to a judge and says, hey, we're not being paid, applies to the court, says we're not being paid, sends the letter to the borrower saying, hey, you're not paying us, we're going to take the property back and sell it. About 50% of the time, the borrower just leaves the residence and it becomes abandoned, at which point the mortgage holder can seize the property and sell it. Or if it has to go through the whole court process, the judge awards a power of sale ownership to the mortgage holder, and the mortgage holder then sells the property. I mean, that I've really condensed it, but that's the essence of what happens.
You mentioned foreclosures as well. How is a foreclosure different?
Foreclosure is almost only ever used in commercial properties. So that is a process, a court process by which takes much longer, guaranteed to take a year or more, in which the mortgage holder can acquire the property for their own use. So that's the main difference. Under power of sale, you must sell the property. That's the rule, period, end of story. In foreclosure, you can acquire the property, take over the property, be given title to the property, and use it for your own purposes. As I say, it works best with commercial properties that are rented out because you've got an ongoing income all the whole time. Big danger to foreclosure, the previous owner can redeem at any point along this year-and-a-half process that you've been involved with the courts. And in reality, you can't get in most cases, you can't get your legal fees back. So it's tricky, but some people prefer in commercial situations to use that process.
If you're a homeowner and you get this power of sale notice from the mortgage holder, and you think there's still value in the house, what do?
You could absolutely sell it yourself. You can list it yourself. You can offer it at a very attractive price to sell it quickly. And as long as the mortgage holder sees that you're serious, the bank or the private lender, whoever it is, sees you're serious and that you've priced it correctly, and you're getting showings, you're probably going to get a chance to sell it yourself. That's the reality of it.
Are the mortgage holders, the banks, patient enough usually, or not patient?
There's a lot of rules about it, but the way that the power of sale works is if you've bounced a check and 7 days have passed, bounced a mortgage payment check, 7 days have passed, you can get a lawyer's letter that says if you don't pay this in another 7 days, we're going to start power of sale proceedings. That's possible. That's not the way the banks work. The banks always wait 90 days to give you an opportunity to try to patch things up.
It's incredible that you say it's gone from 5 a month in 2005 to 400 last month. We're going to take a break for some messages, and we come back with Ron Butler. We're going to talk about why. And in his post, he gave 4 reasons. Let's see what he has to say now, whether it's the same 4 reasons or more. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I've got Ron Butler of Butler Mortgages, mortgage broker of a couple decades experience. And he's told us before that he's lived through this before in 1990. And so he's got, this unique experience that he knows what's happened. And maybe you can compare, what happened then to what's happening now and give us a sense of how you think it's going to impact. But in your post last week, you gave 4 reasons why you thought this was all happening. Maybe you could tell us, why do you think this is happening? Why are we got this massive increase in powers of sale?
Well, other than this unique student housing scenario, which is very meaningful. I mean, it is a big number. It is impactful on power sale, and particularly in the GTA. But let's look at the key reasons. If you talk to any bank chief risk officer, they will all tell you exactly the same thing. What do you worry about for mortgage defaults? What do you worry about when you have to take back houses and sell them? And the chief risk officer will list 3 things: unemployment, unemployment, and unemployment. It is the most crucial aspect of people losing their homes, is losing a job. You can't make the payments. Now, unemployment in the GTA is one of the biggest rates in Canada. Like in Toronto, the unemployment rate's nearly 9%. I mean, that's a big, big number, and that has a direct impact on people. The other factors that affect it, that's probably number 1, though, but other factors that will affect it is the reduction in house values. Reduction in house values is a twofold problem. It means that it's impossible to refinance, even to refinance with a private lender, because your property is worth less and it's getting closer and closer to your mortgage amount. The value is approaching your mortgage amount. The other aspect of that is you're starting to scratch your head whether it's too important to hold on to it. Like if your mortgage amount is the same as your house value and you're having trouble paying the mortgage because you lost your job, you might be saying, well, I guess we could just give the keys back. I mean, we're going to have to find another solution. There's no equity in my house, so why am I staying? So those are very important features. We have the issue of private lenders. Now, many people have never used a private lender, but a private lender is a lender of last resort. I mean, it's high interest, it's high fees, but if you're really trying to find a way to hold on to your house, the private lender, private mortgage can offer a lifeline. But if the value's down, or if the private lenders have taken a bunch of hits on other houses, they pull in their horns and they're much less likely to want to offer on anything. And that's another factor we have seen. And that's real. So there is a bunch of contributory factors, but still, unemployment, number one, it's the thing that banks worry about the most.
You also said in your post that people are stopping to pay property taxes. Why would they do that?
Well, it's the general unaffordability that exists in our country today. So you've got expensive houses that you bought a few years ago, which created big mortgages and big mortgage payments. I mean, if you had a variable rate mortgage, your payments soared. If you might have had a 1.45 rate, you went to 6.25 at the worst. So, and as we know, people who bought 5 years ago are starting to renew. Instead of a 1.79 fixed rate, they're getting a 3.99 rate. Now, doesn't seem like a terrible rate, but still it's a big difference in your payments. We all understand food inflation. We all understand that when we get our car insurance renewal, it's up 8%. It's not up 2%. It's not up 3%. It's up 8%. It's up 10%. We have this crowding down of unaffordability that just puts pressure on everyone. And here's one thing nobody comes after you if you don't pay, is your property tax. Like, if you don't pay your property tax, nobody shows up at your door if you missed a payment from the city and says, hey, you better pay. You just get a little letter, hey, please pay when you get a chance. And then nothing happens. And then another few months go by, you might get another letter. That's about it. Then a year goes by, hey, you want to try to think about paying us? But you're never getting any kind of real pressure to pay. So it ends up, you don't pay. That's it.
But ultimately, the city's got to do something, no?
After 3 years, the city will initiate a proceedings to sell your property under tax sale. But
after 3 years?
3 years, yes, 3 years, that's correct.
What's the interest rate? Do they charge a penalty? Do they charge an interest rate?
It's a low interest rate. I mean, it's like prime plus 1 or prime plus a half. It's not a very high interest rate.
Sounds like that's what everyone that's in trouble should do, is they should stop paying their property tax.
Sure, except that if you have to renew, your bank's going to hear about it. Your bank's going to ask you to prove your property taxes up to date during that 3 year period, and now you're going to be in real trouble. So yes, that's when you pay. That's when you pay it off. If no one's coming after you, that's when you pay it off. Well, there's a lot of them not paying, Brian. There's a ton of people not paying their property tax, so that's for sure.
I didn't realize that. Is there a way of tracking that? Like you talked about foreclosures and powers of sale. Is there a arrears statement that you can get from cities?
Let's take the example of Brampton. As we talked about, Brampton's been highly affected by some of these real estate issues and gyrations and other things. I think the city of Brampton's owed $353 million of property taxes right now.
That'd be fascinating to track to see if it's gone up.
Oh, you can find out. It's public record. They won't tell you who's not paying. They try to prevent you from learning that, but they will tell you what the totals are.
Is this going to get worse or better before it's over?
Oh no, it's going to get worse for sure.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
Why is it going to get worse? How do you know?
Well, a few process issues. Like power of sale takes between 6 months to a year to get to the point where you're listing the property, or the bank or the lender's listing the property for sale. So we've still got a lot in process, right? I mean, it took a whole year to get there. So there's a whole wave more coming. So we know that much because they're in the courts right now. We also know that unemployment isn't going down. Like there's nobody putting up a sign saying we're going to open a new plant of anything. We're going to start manufacturing X or Y in the GTA, and no bank said, yeah, we're going to hire 1,000 people to do anything. You've never seen any of those announcements. You've never heard of any of those things. We just hear about people getting laid off. I mean, they shut down one of the production lines in Oshawa. Brampton, Chrysler plant's still not open. Stellantis plant in Brampton's still not open. There's still nobody working at the Ford plant in Oakville. No one, you don't hear about any new sudden growth in business in the GTA other than collection agencies. So the reality is there's going to be more unemployment. It just makes sense. I mean, we see issues coming at us every day. Canada Post's on strike. If you're a small business who depended on Canada Post to ship your little packages for you, I guess you're in trouble because that's gone. If you're a small business who was depending on the de minimis exemption to ship goods into the United States, well, they've took the de minimis exemption away nearly a month ago now. So there's all kinds of people trying to figure out how to pay duties or become CUSMA compliant. But all those small businesses are suffering. So I don't see how suddenly employment's going to take off in Southern Ontario, and unemployment causes problems with paying your mortgage.
So Ron, if we've got, 5 powers of sale in 2005 going to 400 last month, and you're saying it's going to get worse. So the power of sale numbers are going to go up, and if it takes 6 months, then effectively your 400 is what was actually initiated 6 months ago. So we're looking in the rearview mirror. We don't know what's actually happening today. We know what happened 6 months ago, if that's the numbers that you're seeing. So what you're saying is it's going to get worse. If it's going to get worse, isn't that going to drive down housing prices even more, which is going to mean that it's a vicious circle? And as housing prices go down even more, it's going to be more challenging for people to renew mortgages and more likely that they give the keys back. And so therefore, everything you've described is like a snowball going downhill, getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, look, every economist refers to a recession as a spiral downwards because all those contributing factors you just mentioned keep piling on, keep causing worse results. And certainly in the housing market, because let's face it, it's a phenomenally expensive housing market in the GTA. It's one of the most expensive housing markets in the world. It's our prices in the GTA at this point, after many house prices have fallen, are still 50% higher than any comparable neighborhood in the city of Chicago. So we have expensive house prices here. And that's big mortgages in some cases. And these people feel the pressure of that scenario as employment becomes more and more shrinking down the number of jobs. I mean, look, I would suggest that we've seen a major drop in prices. By major, I mean like a rapid drop, like probably 4% in the last 6 months in the GTA. Houses that we didn't think would go down. Like we always thought that Central 416 was untouchable, that it might come off a few percent, but not in any major way. We're starting to see steep reductions in certain areas of old 416. We thought old 416 would never be a problem, but we're starting to see some disturbing trends in old 416 just in the last 4 months. And that is probably a reflection of the stuff we've just talked about. And definitely 905 is badly affected. Hamilton is badly affected. We've got some particular counties like Brock, town of Brock. Their prices have dropped 15% this year so far. Like, it's an outlying community, sure, but it's meaningful that's big. It was already down the prices had gone down there in 2024, and they've gone down even more steeply. Some of this is the effect of power of sale, because when a house has to be sold, like there's a lot of people offered their house for listings and just said, I don't like the price, I'm just going to take it off listing. But if a bank or a lender is selling your house, they must sell. That's one of the rules of power of sale. You just keep dropping the price till you sell, because you're not allowed to hold on to the house. Those are part of the rules of the process. So when that house price hits of the power of sale in that neighborhood, that's a new comparable and all prices drop. That's the way it works.
What's the way out of this?
I don't know. Prime Minister get a trade deal with the U.S. That'd be a good one. That ain't easy, but that in Ontario, that's an important way to get out of this. No province is more affected by the trade war than Ontario. No province will continue to be affected more than Ontario, and that's what we're seeing. I haven't even
Do you think
talked about.
this is Trump's fault? It's the trade war fault.
Not entirely. No, not at all. Canada has been in a per capita GDP recession for 2.5 years. I mean, there's a reason why everybody's been feeling, and the Canadians have been here for a long time, but feeling miserable in Ontario that things aren't going well for them, that things are harder and more expensive and more difficult, is because we've had stagnant wages, and we've had in the last 4 years we've had at some points very aggressive inflation. Nobody's feeling comfortable, and that's not just Donald Trump. He wasn't even around 4 years ago. So 2 years
Brian,
ago.
I've gotten dozens of emails from real estate agents saying, interest rates are down. The Bank of Canada reduced the rate. XYZ Bank is predicting that housing prices will increase in the last half of 2025. Now's the time to buy. Are they all wrong?
This is the last half of 2025, and house prices in August went down. They may go up. There may be a slight uptick in September, because we've been observing a lot of first-time home buyers have been watching these prices go down, and they're ready to take the plunge. We have probably done more pre-approvals in the last 2 months than we've done in the last 16 months. So young people are paying attention to this. First-time buyers are paying attention. Sometimes they're not young. Sometimes they're 40 as a first-time buyer. But they've been paying attention to the prices dropping. They might want to get involved. They're taking a kind of a closer look. But are prices going to surge? No, they're not going to surge. I mean, they might tick up 0.5%, 0.25% in terms of the value of houses. But, I went through the 1990s, as you said, and some months were better than others. Some months, house prices went up a touch. And then 3 months later, they fell back down again. I mean, it's not a static market. It's not a straight line. But, we went from 1991 to 1996. There was no upward movement for those whole 5 years. There's little tiny peaks, then go back to valleys, but no big upward movement for 5 years.
If you're interested in buying, if you are a first-time buyer, is this the good time to buy, or should you wait 6 months?
I think you'll end up with a better price in 6 months. I feel that sincerely. But by the same token, if some first-time buyers are very, very specific, I only want to be in this neighborhood, in this school district. I want this kind of a home. I want this kind of a price point. And if you're very specific about where you're buying, then maybe it's okay. So it's affordable to you now. Go ahead. In a general way, if you haven't done any of those careful classifications of what you want and just thinking maybe I should look into a house now, then yeah, wait 6 months.
Are there ways to track powers of sale? Are there specific websites that focus on powers of sale homes? Can you get a deal by tracking them?
Well, some real estate agents track them. Treb doesn't run a list for you. Like there's no real estate board runs a list of power sales for you. But there's a number of real estate agents that will try to put together lists of power sales in certain neighborhoods and regions. And you just Google it, power of sale in Toronto, real estate agents who specialize in power of sale, and you will find some power of sale properties listed. Now let's remember, these will represent the market price. So, and another consideration is if people haven't lived there for 6 months, they may not be in great shape. You have to consider that. Most power of sale homes are sold as is. In other words, if you buy it, you get one look around. If you're lucky, you may get a chance to do an inspection. A lot of times the lender says, no inspection. You just look at it yourself and you decide whether you walk around. We're not going to let a house inspector in. We're trying to do this efficiently because every time you let somebody in, there's a further possibility that the home might be damaged because there's nobody there and there's nobody going to be there. Like at least with an open house, you go in and you look around and there's somebody watching you. Or even with a lockbox on the door, the owners come back after the appointment to view the house. We don't have that here. This house is completely empty. So there are some security issues. So you may not get the opportunity to do a house inspection, a home inspection, and you're sure as heck taking it as is once you sign on the dotted line.
Ron, is now a good time to buy, or no, just wait for 6 to 9 months to see where everything shakes out?
I mean, again, if you have a compelling need, if you've just had triplets and you feel a compelling need to buy a home, this is a lot better time than 2021. That's for sure. It is much better time to look. But if you can be patient, I feel strongly there'll be better prices in 2026.
And you're saying the same thing for condos, for townhomes, for duplexes, and for singles.
Let me break out the condos separately. You might wait to 2027 to find the bottom of condos. I mean, condos have a lot of issues associated with them that we haven't covered here. But I would say for low-rise, townhouses, semis, single family, there are some bargains out there. But in a general way, I would say there's still room for those prices to come down in 2026. But condos could keep going down for another year and a half.
So you said there was a 4% decline. Is a 4% decline the bust of a bubble that people have been talking about for years, or is that just a small decline?
I think it's fair to say if we look from peak to trough, the peak of Southern Ontario's housing market was March 2022. In 905, in a general way, we're off 25% from the peak and continuing to head down. It wouldn't surprise me if it bottomed out at 30% or more for the 905. I think for 416, it'll bottom out at about 16 or 18%. But these are major drops. And by the way, the 416 didn't go up that much in the frenzy of 2021. It was really the suburbs went up the fastest, the highest, the most.
Fascinating conversation about the real estate market. I'm going to take a break and come back in 2 minutes with Ron Butler of Butler Mortgages. I'm going to ask him about housing starts because we've got this other factor that's happening that at the same time, people aren't building. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We've got Ron Butler of Butler Mortgages with us today. We've been talking about power of sale. We've been talking about house price declines. We've been talking about unemployment, house prices going down, people not paying taxes, property taxes. It sounds like it's a big problem. But Ron, at the same time, I understand that we're not building homes. Building starts are down dramatically. Condos are not being built at all unless they're already in the ground and half constructed. We're talking about layoffs in the building industry. So if we're not building, we're going to be short supply in the future, aren't we? And so therefore, shouldn't housing prices rocket ship up in a couple of years?
It's a great question. There is no doubt, absolutely factually, the new construction of residential properties to buy is just cataclysmically down in Ontario. I think the new low-rise, that's single-family, townhouse, semis, I think it's fair to say that's off 86% or more.
86%.
Sure. We don't know of anybody who's started a new low-rise project in the whole GTA. I mean, this just doesn't exist. There are purpose-built rentals being built, and there's not one single condo tower has started, with the exception of just for owner-occupied. But in other words, it's a luxury condo tower. But essentially, there hasn't been a new condo started in all of Southern Ontario, probably for 16 months. There's a bunch of towers being completed, as you just mentioned. There's still cranes in the air. There's still properties getting finished. Those were all purchased several years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago. There are rentals being built, purpose-built rentals are being built throughout Southern Ontario. There's a huge push by CMHC. It was a very, very good program to encourage purpose-built rentals. It's got great attributes, and there's a ton of it going on. And some of the people who were going to build a condo, when the bottom fell out in 2023, they switched them to purpose-built rentals. They just had the zoning changed, and they switched to and started building purpose-built rentals. So, but homes to buy are they're just not building any in Southern Ontario. It's a number that's so small, it's not worth talking about. It's easier just to frame it as stopped for brand new homes to buy.
So you and I chatted a couple of years ago about the CMHC calculation that we needed 3.5 million additional homes to have any kind of reasonable amount of supply and supply that would be then affordable. If we're not building at all, we're going to be short supply, and this housing price decline should turn around dramatically. No?
There's a real possibility of that, but there's a countervailing situation that hasn't happened in Canada before. Stats Canada published this data that they believe in 2025 there will be virtually no population growth. There will be no immigration growth in Canada, and that means no population growth, because we have a fertility rate that we don't replace ourselves. Our fertility rate's gotten to the point it's one of the lowest, amongst the lowest in the world. It's approaching that of like Japan and South Korea. It's extremely low, 1.35, should be 2.1. So we're not having any kids to replace ourselves. Therefore, if immigration reverses, like all these students who are going back, the federal government's push to have refugees sent home, temporary foreign worker greatly reduced. StatsCan themselves says there's going to be no population increase in 2025 or negligible, like 0.6%. And they predict that in 2026, there may be negative population growth as more refugees go home, more temporary workers go home, and very, very slow, if not zero growth. So if there's zero growth in people, will you really need a bunch of new homes? Yes, you do, because some old decrepit homes just need to be replaced and people don't want to live in something that's really in bad shape. We got all those factors. Sure, you need new homes. But we're used to very spectacular growth in Canada for the last 10 years, particularly the last several years. And that just may not be there. I mean, our own government's telling us it won't be there. So that's a different situation.
So, a couple minutes ago, you talked to me about how Toronto is a high-cost housing environment, and that there's no neighborhood in Chicago that you could buy in Toronto for the price that's available in Chicago, as an example. And I've seen this myself in the United States, where there's incredibly beautiful housing available at half the price of what a comparable house in Toronto would go for, whether it be in Chicago or not maybe Manhattan, but the suburbs of New York, Dallas, Texas, for sure, Florida as well, where housing is 8 times income, 5 times income, versus here it's 12 to 15 times income, and so it's a whole different sort of story in the United States in regards to housing. So if our housing is very expensive in the United States, it's expensive in Canada versus United States, or at least expensive in Toronto versus the United States, is all this good? Is this actually positive? What's happening?
In a way, yes. Lower house prices would be a phenomenal benefit to the young people of Southern Ontario. I can't tell you how great a benefit that would be. Lower rents are a great benefit to all the renters in Southern Ontario, all of Ontario. It's a phenomenally better thing at lower prices. But, to get close to Chicago prices or Houston prices or any of those prices, we've actually got to come down. We've come down about 25% in the suburbs in the 905. We'd have to come down another 20 or 22%. And that would sort of severely impact on some people's financial situation. So I can't really say that's something we should wish for. But yeah, it would be great if house prices didn't continue to come down. It would be great if house prices at least stabilized so that wages could keep up for a number of years, could increase for a number of years and try to catch up. All those things would be good. But particularly, we should look at our municipal governments to say, we need radical change in the amount of money you want out of new housing developments. It's 30% in most municipalities. Now, Vaughan has reduced that by 80%. Mississauga has reduced it by 80%. Interestingly, not much reaction. There's been no sudden influx of new projects into either one of those locations. But it's a good idea. It's an important idea that these development fees have to come way down. In Southern Ontario, particularly in the cities of Southern Ontario, it's 30% of every new home is government. It's the share government takes. And if you compare that with the 1980s, government was taking about $3,000 out of every new home. So in some cases it's 300,000 now. So it's a big issue.
$300,000 in development fees and taxes. Seriously?
Sure, on a good sized single family home, yeah, 100%. Absolutely provable. Between 288 and 312,000 in the city of Toronto. That's what it would be. Absolutely. So yeah, we got some work to do. And let's face it, why in the world is the federal government still charging GST on new homes? Like, I can't tell you why. It doesn't make any sense to me. Don't you want people to build new homes at a reasonable price? There's a lot of times that the government comes back with, well, if we reduce the tax, then the builders would just make more profit. Well, I got news for the federal government. The builders are closed. They're closed. They'll do anything today to get a sale going, to get a new development going. If you're closed, you're not interested in gouging profit. You're interested in survival. Just give me a chance to build a house so I can keep my people working. That's the reality of it today.
I chatted with Richard Lyle, the president of the Residential Manufacturers Association or Council of Ontario, and he thought that there was 25,000 layoffs in the building industry already, and it's going to accelerate. What do you think?
Dead right. I think he's on the low side. I think it's closer to 30, 35,000 already. And what we should realize is for many of these condo projects, when the developers or when the crews complete one condo, they send crews to the condos that are still being built. In other words, normally you would build with, say, one big crew, and then, okay, well, we can build a little faster if we bring in the other crew because they got no new condo to start with. So let's go faster and finish this project faster. And that just means that eventually there'll be more people laid off all at once. If you got 3 crews working to finish a building, it goes quick. But when the building's done, there's no new building. So that's 3 crews laid off.
So, Ron, what do we do? If you were sitting down with our premier or prime minister, or minister of housings, what would you tell them we got to do?
Development fees to zero. Get all of this tax burden that you've laid on first-time home buyers, in many sectors. It's not just here; it's in British Columbia as well. Get rid of it. Just get rid of it. And then finally, Premier Ford, try to find a non-corrupt way to open up the Greenbelt. Try to find an proper way to open the Greenbelt up. Because let's face it, if you actually drove around the Greenbelt, you'd find out that a lot of it's just the brown belt. It's just it's not farms, it's not watershed, it's just some scrub land that could be turned into housing instantly. And I could go into eliminating all the ridiculous number of reports you need, all the bizarre environmental studies that are required that slow everything down. But there's so much government could do. I could lay almost every problem in the housing business at the foot of various levels of government, because everything they've done over the years has largely been an error.
I've been told that we're building homes approximately the same way we did 50 years ago. Shouldn't there be some technological improvement, some productivity improvement in house building?
Well, I can assure you in the high-rise condo space, we're not building them like we did 50 years ago. We operate a very modern, very efficient, very effective and fast condo building space. And we could have a much more effective and efficient low-rise home building, townhouses, single-family space too, except we've layered on so many rules, so many environmental concerns, so much R value, so many extra pivots on like we are running in Ontario. We run more R value, more insulation than they do in the Arctic Circle of Norway. Like our building codes are more aggressive on that than than it exists in the Arctic Circle. So yeah, we've sort of lost our minds on overregulation, and that's some of the reasons why housing is so expensive, particularly low-rise housing. But no, our condo builders are amongst the top builders and trades in the world. We can throw a building up just as fast as they can in Manhattan, and we're very efficient at it.
Our new prime minister has talked about prefab, manufactured housing, and the government playing a role in that. Does that make any sense?
No, it's totally stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. They should just shut down the whole agency now before they hire more people. Build Canada Homes, just shut it down. It's absolutely stupid.
Why? Why is it stupid?
Well, first of all, private enterprise tried it, and a very brilliant man, Peter Gilgan at Mattamy Homes, tried it 15 years ago. And he is a brilliant builder, and he has started his life as an accountant, and he's meticulous about the numbers. And at the end of his attempt at modular homes, he says, this does not work. It's not cost efficient. It's more expensive to do modular. So, and the prime minister would say, oh, well, everything's changed in 14 years. Not really. The only thing that's changed is that your former employer, Brookfield, owns one of the biggest modular home companies in the world, and that might have something to do with it. But modular is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Our builders can build, again, particularly in the high-rise space, our builders can build as efficiently as anybody in the world and more efficiently than modular.
There's been this big controversy about threeplexes or sixplexes. Do you think that that's a potential solution to the problem, is having as of right sixplex development everywhere and anywhere you want?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with it, actually. I know that there's some situations where people find it's very disturbing to the neighborhood, but I don't have a lot of problems with it. I think it's got to be rational based on the size of the lot. And they've made some mistakes in some jurisdictions. For instance, in British Columbia, their building code allows for 3 stories with this kind of multi-family kind of operation. And 3 stories stands out like a sore thumb in any neighborhood. But in Ontario, we are restricted to 2 stories, except along business, like pure commercial streets associated with transit lines. Like, if you want to build on the Danforth, one of these things, you could build 5 stories. But that's a commercial building. But in neighborhoods, you can never go past 2 stories here. It won't look out of place. I could tell you, in my own neighborhood, they could start building threeplexes in a minute in Mississauga. I mean, these are big lots. They're 55-foot lots. You can just start building right away, threeplexes. Everybody would be fine with it. Don't get me wrong. NIMBYs would cry and moan, but just make sense. They're big lots. You could fit a threeplex on it for sure. So I'm pretty much in favor of that. The danger is, in many locations in the city of Toronto, if you build a 4-plex or 6-plex, it's all rental. It's all rental. There's no such thing as a 4-unit condominium corporation, right? I mean, it's just too hard. So we're going to have to start asking ourselves a very, very important question in Canada, particularly in big cities. We're going to have to ask the question of, have we given up on people owning homes? And if that's true, shouldn't we at least ask them? Like, if all these programs, they Build Canada Homes, Carneyville modular yurts, or all this 6-plex stuff in all of these different municipalities, it's probably okay, but shouldn't we just, not the yurts, the Carneyville the modular homes is terrible, but some of this other stuff is fine, but it's all rental. So shouldn't we be truthful with young people? Shouldn't the governments at all levels go to young people and say, listen, we're going to stop building homes for you to buy. You're going to have to rent for the rest of your life, because that's the general economic direction we're taking. That's the housing orientation we're developing in particularly big cities. And shouldn't we ask somebody? Shouldn't the government say, I just want to level with you and tell you the truth. We're only going to build rentals. We're only going to support rentals from now on. We're going to have great programs for rentals. But we think home ownership is passé. So government should be honest with people. Start being honest with young Canadians. If that's the way you look at it, just say it out loud.
Ron, that would be, taking away the dream of home ownership from a whole bunch of young people. If you didn't want to have to say that, you wanted to keep the dream of home ownership alive, what would we need to do?
Do all those things. Get rid of all the crazy, super expensive development fees, the 30% of the cost of a home going to the government. Get rid of all that. Open up the green belt. Pull back for all the crazy regulation. Did anybody ever ask whether it was a good idea that we should have more insulation in our homes than people in the Arctic Circle? Like, I mean, did anybody ask those questions? That was just decided for us by others. And those layer on costs and expenses. I'm not saying have no insulation. That's stupid. But most of us live in homes today. If we live in a low-rise home, which was built many years ago, and it works. It works, and it was built for a much lower cost per square foot. It was much easier to build it. And why? Why have we added on all of this regulation, all of these extra costs? Why did we do it? Did anybody have a vote about it? Did anybody go to governments and municipalities and provincial governments and say, hey, should you not ask us that we want to have some of the most complicated and expensive homes to build in the world and the best our value better than Norway's? I mean, can we talk about that? Some of the stuff has been all crazy stuff laid at the altar of the environment. Okay. Nobody knows this. Virtually nobody ever knows this, but we have an industrial carbon tax on all that concrete that goes into forms and goes into building condos or building purpose-built rentals. We have required the concrete companies to adopt environmental protection systems, climate-oriented systems that make the concrete even more expensive than in many other jurisdictions in the world. So there's things people don't even understand about how we've added layers of cost to building homes. It's kept hidden. It's kept hidden by the government. Just last week, the Prime Minister insisted the industrial carbon tax was a great idea, but it costs us money every single day. These are things we could change, but it doesn't look like we're going to change them.
Ron Butler of Butler Mortgages, I really appreciate you joining us today and talking about this housing crisis that we're in. And frankly, I think what you're saying is it's going to get worse before it gets better. That now is not a great time to buy. That maybe watch very closely and sometime in the next year might be a great time to buy, but now's not. That housing prices are going to come down. That it's not just in condos. It's in every aspect of the industry. And if we don't do something from a government action standpoint, we're at real risk of having no starts or very low starts and massive layoffs. And if we have massive layoffs in the housing industry, that's only going to make it worse because it's going to be another vicious cycle of having more unemployment and more people having challenges making their mortgage payments and property tax payments and there's going to be more powers of sale. If there's a power of sale of a great house in your neighborhood, Ryan, promise you'll call me.
Well, my neighborhood's your old neighborhood. So yeah, I promise I'll tell you.
That's why I'm asking, buddy. That's why I'm asking. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videos go up on my website, briancrombie.com. Social media, YouTube channel, and podcast servers as soon as the radio show goes to air. I think this is a really interesting conversation, one that we need to have because I think as a society, we're failing our young people. And if there's one thing that we're supposed to do in life, it's to make the world better for our kids. And we're not doing that anymore. And we got to get our act together. And so, Ron Butler, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
That was excellent. Thanks so much.